Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As you can see, we got the car behind us and it's up in the air. We're taking care of a couple of different items on this. The last video you saw with this car, we had just gotten it fired up, and we were then going to be moving forward with a couple other things. I want to show you what we did find, and we actually pulled the transmission out, show you exactly what happened there. But also, thank you guys for tuning in. If you can, real quick, give us a like and a subscribe down below. Helps me out, and also, make sure you visit our website for a bunch of the different stuff we have on there. Hats, shirts, stickers, a bunch of things like that. So, website right here. Anyway, so let's get to why the transmission's out of this and what we got going on. So you see behind me, here is our transmission, and this is a Turbo 400. It's a close ratio 3-speed, and this is a Cameron's Torque Converter Services converter in here, built for our Turbo Hemi. Now, right here, this well, I always call it a spud. This centering spud right here is actually too small. We found what was happening is I didn't catch it last year, but we always had to lift up on the converter a little bit to get all the bolts started. That's because that centering spud is the incorrect diameter for our Hemi. That is for like a big block Chevrolet, and that's a common torque converter for them to build for a big block Chevrolet, so it's an honest mistake, and we didn't catch it. I mean, it's been almost a year and we didn't catch it, so we have to go ahead and take care of that. So we're actually going to make a sleeve that's going to slide over it and then fit into the crankshaft. Let's go take a look at what we are working with on the crankshaft side of it, and then we'll go jump on the lathe, and then we're going to put a new flex plate on. We're going to explain why there too. So on the crankshaft here, you can see there's a little bit of oil and such on it, not a big deal. But we have our different ledges. So you see here, there's a ledge here, and then another one here. Well, this first one, we'll put a little arrow right there. That first one is where we want that to slide into, and then it has a positive stop. We want to make a sleeve that's going to slide over this here, be bigger, and then be able to go into there, so it's going to help center it. It's also going to help with the converter moving forward. What was happening is, since this didn't center on anything right here, it was pushing against the flex plate, and it was bending the flex plate. So that's why we're going to put a new flex plate on, because it actually bent it, and that's why we had to put the starter shims in. It was just something we didn't catch over the winter here while we were doing everything apart. Now that we got it together, we saw this and went, wait a minute, time out, let's get this fixed. So I actually found a piece of scrap steel that's gonna work, and we're gonna be over in the lathe getting that turned down. So let's go do that. So over here, sorry about the heater going, but we have the ring turned down. I went and I put it in the back of the crankshaft. Fits nice and snug in there, but as you can see, it doesn't fit on here. What we're gonna do is measure the outside of this. We're gonna have to bore the inside out, but we're gonna leave a ledge there because we actually want this. We don't want it to sit out this far. We want it to kind of sit like that. And what do we see here? 1.705, 1.700. I'm gonna call that 1.700. done. You saw us finish that up right there. We gave it about 5 thou clearance on the inside, so that way we're just trying to get this so it's going to center much better. We were lifting it up like 100 to 150 thou, and that's just putting a lot of pressure on everything else that doesn't need to be there. So let's take a look here. So we've got the lift there, so I'll go that way. Ooh. A little bit of wiggle on there. Nice. So we'll go ahead and get the flex plate and back on and get this stuffed in here. But first, while we have the transmission out, I broke the throttle pedal last year and we never even noticed it. So we need to weld that up, but we're gonna put a mechanical throttle stop or a pedal stop in this car, so that way we don't have that issue again. Hey everyone, so we just got done doing some machining and we put out a post about a week ago or something. Yeah, about a week ago, maybe a little bit longer, just asking if there's any Q&A that you guys had, and we actually had a few people respond, whether it was on our post there or on another post. You can see those posts if we have any questions or any Q&A stuff on there. It is on our Facebook, our Bad Influence Garage Facebook, and on our Instagram. So make sure you go follow those. If you guys do have any questions, we do put up some posts there, seeing what you guys want to know or anything. And you can always message us. But first one we had on there, Tanner Bluebaugh asked, on the radial setup, approximately how much separation are you seeing? Well, I can answer a little bit of that, and then Al can talk a little bit about a little bit more of the specifics of it. But on this car, we are seeing between 5 and 5 1/4 inches of separation, and we are usually to full separation by about 1.2 to 1.4 seconds into the run. We have been full separation by 1.15, which is just after the 60 foot, and we ended up having some issues on that, so we ended up slowing it down. But I know that it is going to be different on different setups. So
yeah, and it also depends on the shock that you have. It's like the shocks that we have on ours are 7-inch stroke shock. They do make some others out there, 8, 9-inch. Those are custom-made shocks. If anybody's ever seen Marcus Burt's car, how it jacks up like that, I believe he's got like an 8 or 9-inch stroke shock on it. So on ours, the reason you don't see a full 7 inches of separation is you have to set them up so that you still have some compression left, otherwise you're sitting right on the bump stop. And the whole thing is, turbo cars are different on the way that they set up their separation versus, say, a screw-blown car or a Pro-Charge car or even a nitrous car. The timing of the separation is different on all those
There's
cars.
a really good video on it. Al was just showing it to me on there. What I'll do is I'll put the link in the description below if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Corey Kirkner asked, do you have an order of things you look at after you make a bad pass? Tire pressure, suspension changes, tune adjustments, etc. Or do you try to avoid changing too many things at once?
Well, we never have bad passes. Nobody ever has bad passes.
Yeah,
good Lord, you can't do that.
Well, I'll venture to say it's not a bad pass as long as you can learn from it. You know,
that's right.
It might not be the pass you wanted, but as long as you can learn from it. Now,
information is the key.
Exactly. So, what do we do on a bad pass? Well, we have a lot of data with this car now, so we're not afraid to change multiple things, and it also depends where the bad pass happened. One big thing that you will learn having that data is if you go out and all of a sudden you kick the tires or it goes into a tire shake or something at say 2.2 seconds into the run, you need to look at that data from like 2 seconds to 2.2, because it's not what happened at 2.2, it's what happened just before 2.2 to make that happen.
Right.
So, good question, Corey.
Well, the other thing is that we don't just have the data from our data loggers. Taking videos launching the car, so we can look at that and learn from that also.
Yep, great question. Jody Smith, any blow-through advice you'd like to share on there? Well, I can tell
everything's a secret.
Yeah, I can tell you the biggest thing for blow-through advice I can tell you is if you're going to have a blow-through carburetor and you're going to take it seriously for a racing aspect, for a race car, or it's going to be a track, you're going to see a lot of track time, put your money and invest into a good ECU. How we have our Holley Dominator on here, that does the data logging, it does the boost control, it does all of the controls for when I'm turning things on, it controls my dump valves, controls all of that all on one. Before we had a race pack data logger, we had a
Grid.
Had a grid that had to be kind of tied into it where you couldn't make all the adjustments together, and then we also had
Boost controller on top of that.
Nope, the boost controller was in the grid, but we had the bump box.
Bump box, that's what it was.
The Davis bump box was separate on there. Best advice I can say is get a good ECU, whether it's a Holley, whether it's a Fuel Tech, whether it's a Haltech, whether it's a. Those are pretty much the only three that I say I would have.
Well, you know,
yeah. This is a cool one. So this is Turbo Toaster 1984, and if I remember correctly, this is the world record Lotus. He was the first Lotus to the 8s, and he's from England or Europe. Well, England is in Europe. He's from Europe.
That's part of the European Union.
I believe he's in England. And he says, "What is some info on EGT/O2 readings on methanol without an intercooler? I am moving from gas with an intercooler to methanol, no intercooler, and no one seems to want to talk about this."
Well, first off, good move.
Yep, methanol is people call it hero fuel. You know, people will they give me a hard time on it that they've gone so fast and it wasn't on hero fuel. But you know what?
Yeah.
The methanol is it does help out quite a bit. And if it is a race car, I don't see a problem running it on there as long as you have the correct safety equipment with it. Now, since that is a Lotus, I'm going to assume that it's not a blow-through deal. It's going to be EFI. And if you're going to go no intercooler on that, some of the things that you're going to want to watch there are your intake air temps, because you've compressed everything before it gets up to the engine. So you've already got that heat there, and where your injector placement is, it can only pull out so much latent heat so quickly. So that's a big one there. Now, as far as the O2 readings and the EGT readings on there, I can kind of tell you what we do on this car, because every engine setup is going to be different. I don't know on that personal or that specific one. I don't know if that one is a supercharged vehicle where the exhaust is different. So that's why I'm going to say what we do with this one. Now, I'll throw that to the side. The EGT readings will read slightly different, even if it's the same cubic inch and boost on there from a supercharged vehicle to a turbocharged vehicle.
And why is that?
Because the turbocharged exhaust that's coming forward to the turbo has pressure in it. And when you add pressure, it is going to read differently on there. So what we use on here, I like to keep the EGTs under 1400 on ours. It just seems whenever we start getting into that 1400, we can see the G meter start to tip down and it doesn't pull as hard. But if we cool it down with fuel or give it a little bit more fuel to richen it up on there via EGT readings on that, you will see the
EGT readings
the G meter pick back up on there. So we know that 12 to 1300 range on this car is where it likes to be. So we usually use the O2 sensor for setting idle on there, and we'll just kind of verify some of it going down track.
But we mainly tune by EGT temps.
Yeah, we mainly tune this car by EGT temps. So we forgot to turn the camera on here, so we already got this done. We put a nice tack up here, and we're going to come back and give it a little bit more of a weld up here, but now this doesn't wiggle as much. This whole piece was going up and down by like a ½ inch. And then this is our positive stop. So now when we take this wide open, it'll actually hit that. Instead of putting all the pressure on here by pulling on the top. So if we're pulling on the throttle lever up there, we can hurt the carburetor and the linkage, but also if that's pulled all the way back, then all of the force of your foot here is being put into this single shaft, and we don't want that. So now we can go this, the force is being pushed into the stop, and we took all that off of the rest of the throttle linkage. So So we've got the transmission in. You'll see this flex plate is the actual flex plate we took out of here. The one we ordered was incorrect because Hemi to Chevrolet deal here, and it was all incorrect. So we took our flex plate and Al straightened it. We actually pressed it back in, down, made sure everything was good, and it actually came out great. But Pop, what are you looking at now?
Right now I'm just looking at how far the converter needs to come out before it hits the back of the crank, how much of a spacer we're going to need in between there, and I just want to make sure it's like you got the space there. Okay, so I want to make sure that we can see the
crank piece that we've made up there.
Yep.
And then you're trying to figure out for the spacers from here to here, so that way that everything
goes
is
in there, so that we don't have it up against the pump inside the transmission, but we don't have it all the way up against the crankshaft either.
Okay.
So
just taking some measurements, getting all that. So looks like I get to make new spacers because now that we're going to have everything correct in here, the old spacers are not going to work. So we'll fill you in on that in just a bit here, but we're going to go ahead and get some of this very awkward measurements on here and probably jump on the lathe again. Cool, everyone. So I found out that I don't have the material I need to make these spacers on hand. So I'm gonna have to make some calls and I'm gonna need like 7/8 to 1 inch solid stock. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it on the lathe. We're gonna drill our hole down the center. We're just gonna use our cutoff tool. We'll just cut off each individual one at the thickness we need. So pretty boring stuff on there. Some of you guys may like to see it, but for most people, kind of boring. So everything's in here. I was sick this weekend. We started filming some of that, and I was filming the spacer making and such, and then I came down with like a head cold or something. Somebody was like, it's Omicron whatever thing on there, but it wasn't. I was fine. It just hit me for about 2 days, so just if you hear that in my voice, just getting over that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. We'll show you in the next episode all of the spacers we made. I can tell you the math on it real quick. What we figured out is 250 thou, so a 1/4 inch spacer on there, and that's going to keep it 50 thousandths away from the crankshaft from hitting the crank, but it's going to pull it out of the pump just a little bit over 1/8 of an inch, so that way we have plenty of room for that to move around there. So that's going to be our sweet spot. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Comment below what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see, any of that. Visit the website right here. There we go. You guys have that all the time. Check the links in the description. And until next time, guys, be safe out there.